Kung Fu Master is one of those games which you either love or hate. I remember playing the Amstrad version loads back in the day, even though it used to frustrate the hell out of me due to its difficulty. The NES version shown here, known simply as Kung Fu, was considerably easier. Guide the hero through a temple's 5 floors in search of your kidnapped girlfriend. Every floor had a boss guarding the stairs leading up to the next level, but to reach him you had enemies to contend with and traps to avoid. In Japan, the game is known as Spartan X and was popular enough to spawn a sequel, which never reached our shores. Let's see what we missed out on. The game kicks off with a player on the roof of a train. As the game is in Japanese, I'm not entirely sure what the hero is doing up there. Ah well, you can't have a beat 'em up without a level on some sort of moving vehicle. I think the plot revolves around Johnny, the main character, trying to stop some drug smugglers. The story isn't really important, we just need an excuse to walk around and hit people. The outdoor setting should come as a shock to fans of the original. The first game was set entirely in the same building, whilst this one has the player travelling to different locations, depending on the level. This isn't a bad thing though, variation is always a nice thing. Aside from the changing backgrounds, the graphic style adopted is different to Kung Fu Master's bright color scheme. The game has a more gritty feel to it. There are, however, elements which remain the same to the first game. Most of the enemies you'll encounter simply run up to you. If they get in close enough, they shall grapple the player and drain his energy until they are shaken off. To keep these guys at bay, you can punch or kick them. Another attack that can be performed is a powerful uppercut. To execute this move, crouch down for a few seconds and then punch. When the game starts, you get to choose a difficulty setting of either easy or normal. It doesn't matter which you choose, as either mode can be beaten pretty much in your first go. Not only is the game not challenging, but the levels are extremely short and can be completed in a couple of minutes. To disguise this, some of the levels are broken down into different stages. The first level, for example, starts on the train roof and then moves into the train carriages themselves. When fighting in here, I couldn't help but notice that a lot of passengers don't seem to be bothered by the action going on around them. They are content to just sit there reading their newspaper. Be careful though, as some of the passengers are actually enemies who will jump out from the background and attack. That said, considering that the enemies are colored differently to the regular passengers, this isn't a tactic which should surprise anyone. So what are the bosses like, you might be wondering? On the most part, disappointing. When the game was made, I'm sure the programmers intended you to dodge their attacks and use skill to beat them. I however found that rushing into them and kicking like mad would work just as well. Given the fact that it's possible to cruise to the end of a level with your life bar virtually intact, this type of sloppy gameplay proves to be sufficient to win the day. One of my favorite bosses is the Magician. He teleports about and traps Johnny in some hula hoops. Once he has the hero stunned, he tosses dynamite at him, or, beach balls. Really now, how do you expect to hurt someone with a beach ball? He'd be better off bringing out a rabbit from under his hat and ordering it to bite Johnny on the nose. The silliness doesn't stop there, folks. In level 3 you'll face enemies who seem to be riding hoverboards. I find this rather ironic, as Johnny, who is wearing an all-red outfit, looks remarkably like Marty McFly in the Amstrad version of Back to the Future. The prize for the best level, however, must go to level 4. Taking the idea of fighting on a moving vehicle to a wacky new extreme, you take on smugglers on a flying airplane. If you stand still, the air current pushes you back, which is a nice realistic touch. I'm however not sure how realistic it is for someone to survive at high altitude. What with the lack of oxygen and freezing temperatures? Eventually you enter the aircraft through a hatch which has carelessly been left open. Inside, you have to fight snakes on a plane. Okay, I'm kidding. I am, however, serious when I say that the end-of-level boss is an Indiana Jones wannabe and his pet gorilla. Get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape! In all honesty, the gargantuan gorilla is easy to beat. Just walk up to him and kick. Ha! I'm from Gibraltar, the home of Europe's only pack of wild apes. We eat monkeys like you for breakfast! Moving back to the game's difficulty, the only part that is likely to give players a problem is the sixth and final level. Set on a moving platform, there are a few sections where green, Hulk-colored enemies drop down and outnumber you. Grrr, dying makes me angry. You wouldn't like me when I'm angry. After a few goes, you'll work out how to get past that part and finish the level. The last boss is rather disappointing. A generic kung fu guy who is easily beaten just by uppercutting him when he gets close. Level 6's Guardian, who looks like Chun-Li's ugly sister, is way more challenging and would have made a better final boss. Okay, I realize I spent half the review poking fun at the game, but it's not terrible by any means. I'm gonna have to give it a 5 out of 10 though. It just doesn't have the charm of the original, and is frankly too easy to beat. After giving the subject much thought, I think it was a good idea not to release the sequel in the US or Europe. Anyone who would have bought it would have felt a tad ripped off at spending cash on something that lasts less than 30 minutes to finish. Speaking of finishing, I'm done with this review. Thank you for watching, and take care.
This is blasphemy! This is madness!
Madness. This is